Richard, welcome back to another Fantasy Goodfellas video where we're going to talk about your top 30 running back rankings for week 2. You ready?
I'm ready.
Fantasy Goodfellas.
Boom, boom, boom.
Rolling on the field.
Fantasy Goodfellas. Before we get started on the top 30 running back rankings for week 2, let's just see how you did for week 1.
Despite losing Raheem Mostert, who we had at number 6, and Gus Edwards, who we had at number 18, half of our remaining 28 running backs, 14 of them, made the top 20. That's excellent. And then of the remaining, of all our running backs that we picked, all 28, 20 of them were in the top 30. So not bad for week 1.
And before we get started on this week's top 30 running back rankings for week 2, I just want to remind everybody, Richard's going to give his rankings, and then I'm going to challenge him on why he chose that running back for this ranking. Richard, take it over.
And number 1, Christian McCaffrey, who will be hosting the Saints.
Christian McCaffrey had a decent game. Do you think he can have better games than what he had in week 1?
McCaffrey's going to break all sorts of receiving records this year. I expect him to get into the end zone this week. He is the best running back, best pass catcher. He has to be number 1. And number 2, Dalvin Cook at Arizona.
Dalvin Cook didn't have one of his breakout games. Do you think he can have one of his Dalvin Cook 3 TD games this week?
I'm not sure about that, but there's going to be a lot of scoring in Arizona against Minnesota. There will be a lot of scoring, and I think it's going to bode well for Dalvin Cook. And number 3, we have Derrick Henry at Seattle.
Surprisingly, Derrick Henry had a mediocre game, but he had 19 yards receiving. Is he a threat out of the backfield?
No, not really. He's not going to catch that many passes, but he will be. They fell behind early this week. In week 1, I expect him to do much better this week. They're not going to fall behind. He's going to touch the ball a lot. Derrick Henry will be back in week 2. And number 4, Alvin Kamara at Carolina.
Alvin Kamara looks like he can just be dynamite once again this season. How do you think it plays out in week 2?
I mean, if Jameis Winston plays like he did 2 years ago where he led the league in passing, Alvin Kamara can have a wonderful season. He had a great season last year. I don't see why he can't replicate. And number 5, Nick Chubb home against the Houston Texans.
What can we say about Nick Chubb? He's just a great running back. What are you expecting from him?
A lot of running this week. They have a good matchup. I mean, if not for Kareem Hunt, who knows what Chubb could do, but Chubb's still going to put up massive numbers. And number 6, Joe Mixon at Chicago.
Joe Mixon led all running backs in week 1. Can he do it again?
He can. Mixon has the talent. He has the talent to be up there on the list. He's just always an injury risk. And Joe Burrow's coming off an injury too. But if Burrow's healthy, Mixon's healthy, expect big numbers. And number 7, Jonathan Taylor, home against the LA Rams.
He's a dual threat. Is he going to continue being a dual threat throughout the season?
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. And I love Jonathan Taylor. He's got speed, power. He has everything. But guess what? This year he has a back quarterback who likes to dump the ball, who checks down all the time, which is going to be good for Jonathan Taylor. Good and bad because the offense it's not going to open up, but he's going to do just fine. And number 8, Antonio Gibson, who will be home against the New York Giants.
Fitzpatrick went down. Does that bode well for Gibson to get more touches?
It hurts Gibson. It hurts Gibson unless Tyler Heineke comes in and does a marvelous job, and we still have to see about that. But Gibson is a good rusher. He can catch balls out of the backfield. They wanted to use him more in that capacity. We'll see how week 2 goes, but I still like him in my top 10. And number 9, David Montgomery, home against Cincinnati.
Montgomery got a lot of touches in week 1, and this seems to be even a better matchup in week 2. How do you think that plays out?
I like David Montgomery a lot, and this is a good matchup. The only problem with Chicago, the main problem is Andy Dalton. What are they doing? Why is this guy starting? Once you get Justin Fields in there, Montgomery could be a top 5 back. And number 10, Chris Carson, home against Tennessee.
You called it. Seattle's looking to run. He had a good week. Can he continue this?
Yeah, as long as he keeps getting the ball, Carson's a tough rusher. But you know Russell Wilson will keep that offense balanced. He'll still make a couple touchdown passes here and there. but Carson is going to have a top 15 running back year. At number 11, Ezekiel Elliott, who will be at the LA Chargers.
It's not looking good for Zeke when you see Prescott pass him 58 times. Should fantasy owners think about trading Elliott?
Absolutely. Elliott is an enigma right now. He didn't look good, even when he touched the ball. That offense is amazing in Dallas. Amazing. With Dak and CD and Amari. You know, is Elliott up to par? Because you know what? Pollard looks fantastic. Elliott's going to get his touches, but what can he do with them? He looked bad last year. He's starting to look bad this year. He may be one of those guys whose value is going down.
This week's fantasy player stock is fallen.
At number 12, Aaron Jones, home against the Detroit Lions.
Aaron Jones laid an egg in week 1. Is that going to happen in week 2?
It won't. It won't. Green Bay as a whole will rebound from week 1. But I think Aaron Jones this year is being a little overrated. He's explosive, but he's a smallish back. He won't get the goal line carries. Last year, he was very underrated. This year, I think he's still a little overrated. I think most of the time he's going to be outside my top 10. And number 13, Darrell Henderson, who will be at Indianapolis.
Henderson had a good week 1. Now he's going up against a good defense with Indianapolis in week 2. How do you think he does?
Henderson is basically tied into Matt Stafford and the Ram offense. As long as Matt Stafford is there, as long as that offense is humming, Darrell Henderson will get his. At number 14, Austin Eckler, home against the Cowboys.
I would say Eckler didn't do that great in week 1. I'm not expecting big things from him in week 2. Are you?
I still am, because he's the number 1 running back for the Chargers, who have a good offense, who have Justin Herbert, but he didn't catch a pass. I mean, that's what he's supposed to do. If they're not throwing his way, his value takes a huge hit. And number 15, Miles Sanders, who will be home against the 49ers.
I think you mentioned this before. Hurts might vulture some of the Russian TDs. Sanders didn't score. You think that's happening?
I think throughout the season, Hurts will vulture some TDs, but Miles Sanders will still score. Miles Sanders is a talent, but Philadelphia wants to give other running backs, opportunities, including Gainwell. And that's why he's at 15. At number 16, Najee Harris will be home against the Raiders.
This rookie had high expectations on a good team. I don't think he lived up to them. How do you think he does in week 2?
He can only do better, but you have to wonder, if you're someone that drafted him, you have to be nervous at this point. We'll see. And let me tell you, I don't like what I saw from Ben Roethlisberger either. So that whole offense might get downgraded. And it's going to stink if you spent the first rounder on Najee Harris. At number 17, Melvin Gordon at Jacksonville.
He had a great week 1, and he's got a better matchup in week 2. How do you think that plays out?
Hey, Melvin Gordon slapped us in the face. He's like, don't forget about me. I'm still here. I can still make it happen. Everybody loves Javonte Williams, but Melvin Gordon, he's in our top 20. At number 18, Elijah Mitchell at Philadelphia.
I have to say, when Mostert went down, in comes Elijah, but who is he?
I'm with you. I don't know who he is. I just know San Francisco likes to run, and he's the number 1 back right now in San Francisco. So you have to put him in your top 20. And the only reason why he's this low is because I want to see more of Mitchell. He could easily rise. At number 19, we have Tyson Williams, home against Kansas City.
This is a bright spot in that Baltimore offense. He looked good. What do you expect from him?
Man, I wish him good health. What the hell's going on in Baltimore? But yes, he looked good. Yes, Lamar Jackson will vulture some touchdowns, but as long as you're the number 1 back in Baltimore, you're going to get touches. You're going to get touchdowns. And number 20, Myles Gaskin, home against the Buffalo Bills.
I like seeing Gaskin out there. He looked like he was just had a lot to play for. How do you think he does in week 2?
I think he's going to do better than week 1. Week 1 was kind of blah for like everybody on that Dolphin offense. Granted, they still play the Bills, which is a tough matchup week 2, but I think that whole offense is just going to do a little better at home. And number 21, Kareem Hunt, home against Houston.
Nick Chubb's the number 1 guy in Cleveland, and you got Kareem Hunt still taken away from Chubb. Why is Hunt in your top 25?
Because Hunt's a stud, because Cleveland loves to run. Every week, almost every week last year, we had Chubb and Hunt in our top 20. And number 22, DeAndre Swift at Green Bay.
Swift had a good game in week 1, and I think fantasy owners wish they could just get a little consistency from Swift like this every week, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know about that. Detroit, like I've said before, the Lions are horrible. Jared Goff is horrible. So don't expect them to every week fall behind by 50 points and then, try to catch up with short passes. That's not going to happen every week. You will have weeks where they're a bad team and they're going to get shut out, or they're going to score very little. They're going to do very little. That will happen. And number 23, Damian Harris at the New York Jets.
Harris looked good out there, and he even got a touchdown called back. I think you got him a little low just because he's just playing with a lot of emotion.
It's fair to make that argument that I have him ranked low. Here's the issue. He fumbled the game away in week 1. I don't know how Bill Belichick's going to treat that. Damian Harris could be in the doghouse. 24, Chase Edmonds will be home against Minnesota.
I was surprised Edmonds was a dual threat out there. How do you see him?
Edmonds is a dual threat. He's just not a big running back. So when it comes to goal line carries, it's going to be tougher for him to get some of those. But he's in a great offense. He has Kyler Murray. He's going to put up points. At 25, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who will be at Baltimore.
I think fantasy owners were hoping a little bit more, but we've always stated there's just too many targets.
I think it's something that we see over and over in my bottom third here. Smallish backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Smallish back on an offense, right, that has a lot of options, like you said. But I think that's his main issue. He's on a great offense. He's just a smallish back. He'll have, limited yardage, and every once in a while he'll break a long touchdown or catch a touchdown pass. But he's not running it in from the one. And number 26, Devin Singletary at Miami.
Well, Buffalo didn't have a good game week 1, but it looks like Singletary is the number 1 guy, right?
Yeah, it looks like Zach Moss seems like he's been forgotten. And if this is the case, Devin Singletary's value goes up. He's in a great offense, has a fantastic quarterback. The problem this week is the Miami Dolphins. And number 27, Javonte Williams at Jacksonville.
Melvin Gordon had a great game, but they're still feeding Williams the ball. So what do you think is going to happen if they're trying to feed him the ball that much?
I think they're going to continue to split carries. And Melvin Gordon did awesome this week. I think Javonte Williams will also have some good weeks. And number 28, James Robinson, home against Denver.
Robinson has the pedigree to be ranked higher. What do you think he does in week 2?
He didn't get the usage in week 1, and that's the reason why he's down lower. But Jacksonville looks like a team that is going to need offense late. You're going to have a lot of passing late to catch up against whoever they play. You would think James Robinson would profit from that. We'll see. He's in our top 30. He might not be next week. And number 29, we have Mark Ingram, who will be at the Cleveland Browns.
Ingram had a game that you kind of didn't see coming, right? 85 yards and no TDs. I don't think that continues. What about you?
I get you. Here's the thing. There's a lot of question marks about that Houston offense. But they answered one thing. Who are they going to give the ball to? And who are they going to give the ball to a lot? Mark Ingram. And number 30, we have Leonard Fournette, who will be home against the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, we talked about seeing 2 running backs in week 1. Ronald Jones fell off, but you still got Fournette here. Why?
Yeah, based on usage, week 1, we thought, hey, that whole offense was going to go crazy. Everybody was going to score. And they did somewhat, but now we'll see if the trend continues. Definitely Brady, passed a lot more. And the running backs were a little forgotten. Fournette did catch some passes, and that's why he's in our top 30.
All right, Richard, thanks for coming on here and sharing the top 30 running back rankings for week 2.
Hey, it's my pleasure to be here. I love doing this. Make sure to like, subscribe, watch our other videos, and watch us here every week.
Fantasy Goodfellas.
Rolling on the field.
Fantasy Goodfellas.